Joshua was drying his hands at the kitchen sink, the last dishes put away, when the sound of a suitcase hitting the floor made him turn.
That's yours. You're leaving tonight.
Leaving. The word landed like a stone in his stomach.
I've been planning this for 2 years. There's someone else.
Someone else? After 35 years?
Gary. You heard me. Gary Phillips.
His business partner. The man who'd been in his life almost as long as his wife.
The house is in my name now. You signed a refinance 5 years ago without reading. You always trusted too easily.
Trusted. That word was the knife they'd used.
She walked him to the front door and opened it. The cold swallowed him instantly. The door closed and locked. He stood on the snowy porch, suitcase in hand, staring at the wood grain. Across the street, a porch light came on, steady and yellow. He didn't lift his head to see. He couldn't stand there forever. Joshua gripped the suitcase and walked down the driveway, snow crunching under his boots. The porch light across the street had been joined by a figure, an elderly woman in a cardigan, standing in her open doorway.
Joshua, I've been watching this coming for 2 years.
2 years? The words barely made sense.
Come inside. It's cold and you've been out there long enough.
I don't understand. Why are you out here?
But he was already walking toward her, the warmth of her doorway pulling him across the frozen street.
We'll talk inside. Your hands are shaking.
He didn't remember crossing the street. Just the soft click of her door closing behind him and the smell of cinnamon.
She pointed to the kitchen chair. The suitcase dropped to the floor. He sat, still clutching his coat, as if the world had stopped spinning just for a moment. She led him to a small back room. The bed was turned down, a lamp glowing warmly.
You'll sleep here. There are towels in the bathroom.
Sleep. The word felt foreign. How could he sleep tonight?
But she didn't let him rest. She touched his arm and led him to the dining table, where papers were spread out.
My late husband kept these. He always said Gary couldn't be trusted.
Gary. Even then, his mentor had known.
The document was the refinance agreement. His wife's signature was there, but his own was a clumsy imitation.
Forged. I never looked. I just signed where she pointed.
I kept the original deed. My niece Claire is a paralegal. She'll know what to do.
He held the forgery under the lamp. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, a quiet war had just been declared.
My husband Henry was your mentor. He always said, watch the quiet partners. They're the ones with patience.
Henry had warned him once, years ago. Joshua had laughed it off. Now shame clawed at his throat.
After Henry died, I started keeping a log. Every time Gary's car pulled into your driveway while you were out on a job site.
She pointed to a worn ledger on the side table. Dates, times, license plate numbers, 2 years of quiet, patient documentation.
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
You would have confronted her, and without this, she'd have taken everything anyway. I needed proof.
She was right. He would have yelled and lost everything. He'd been a fool for too long.
This is the original deed. Your father-in-law never destroyed it. Henry kept it safe.
Joshua took the deed. His hands trembled. He had been left with nothing, but now he held the key to everything.
You're not alone, Joshua. Not anymore.
Catherine didn't hesitate. She picked up the kitchen phone and dialed Claire.
Claire, it's time. Bring your bag and come right now. Don't ask questions.
Less than 20 minutes later, headlights swept the driveway. The engine cut off. Claire Harlow stepped inside, shaking snow from her coat, her briefcase already open.
Show me everything you've got.
Joshua stood back while Catherine placed the original deed and the worn logbook into Claire's hands.
This forgery is amateurish. It wouldn't fool a bank teller. A handwriting expert could confirm it in an hour.
I kept Henry's notes on the notary. Her name is Elizabeth Marsh.
We need to move fast. Tonight. If Pamela lists the house before we file, we're fighting an uphill battle.
Elizabeth Marsh. He'd known her years ago. He prayed she was still alive.
The room fell quiet. Outside, the snow had finally stopped. Inside, the first fragile pieces of a counterattack were falling into place. Joshua excused himself and walked into the guest room, his phone heavy in his hand. He needed to hear her admit it.
Joshua, I wasn't expecting to hear from you tonight.
Did you ever love me, or was this always the plan?
We had 35 years, Joshua. Gary and I have been together for 7. You just never noticed.
7 years while I was working, building the future you're stealing.
You signed everything over. The house, the accounts. It's all legal, so stop pretending you have a leg to stand on.
We'll see about that.
He ended the call without another word. The silence that followed was louder than any argument.
For 7 years she'd played him, and he had smiled through every lie.
He set the phone on the nightstand. Across the room, the bed waited. But Joshua wasn't going to sleep tonight. A sound pulled him from the guest room. Headlights swept across the living room curtains, slow and deliberate. Through the frosted glass, Joshua watched a luxury sedan idle in his own driveway. The door opened. Gary Phillips stepped out, buttoning his coat like a man arriving home.
He's walking into my house. My house. The hands that built it were still raw.
Joshua's hand shot toward the door handle.
Stop. You walk out there now, you lose everything we just uncovered.
He's with my wife, in my house.
He's a snake. But he's a snake on paper. And we have the paper that bites back.
He clenched his jaw until it ached. Catherine was right. Acting now would just hand them the victory.
Across the street, the front door opened, spilling warm light. Gary paused on the threshold, as if sensing something, then he stepped inside. Joshua stepped back from the window. His breathing slowed. The rage didn't vanish. It hardened into something colder, something useful. Joshua returned to the living room. Claire had her laptop open on the dining table, the forgery document already scanned.
The forgery alone will get us a hearing. But to stop the sale immediately, we need the notary to swear she never witnessed your signature.
Her name is Elizabeth Marsh. She lives in a senior community somewhere in the county. Henry kept her contact information.
I remember her. She notarized our first home purchase 30 years ago. She'd be in her 80s now.
Claire opened a database. Public records were slow at this hour. The search returned 3 Elizabeth Marshes in the county.
One is 92, one is 68, one has no age listed. We need the exact Elizabeth Marsh who handled this refinance.
I have an old address from Henry's notes. She lived on Maple Street. That might narrow it down.
Claire dialed the number attached to the address. It rang 10 times. No answering machine. No response.
We'll file the emergency motion now with the forgery and the logbook. But without her affidavit, it's weaker. The judge might just set a hearing instead of freezing the sale.
The mantel clock struck 11:40. Across the street, the lights in the Reeves house went dark, one window at a time. At dawn, Joshua looked out Catherine's front window. Across the street, a realtor's sign had been hammered into his frozen front lawn, a bold red "For Sale" banner slashed across it.
For sale. They had listed it overnight while he slept. The betrayal was now a piece of public advertising.
They're not wasting time. Neither are we. Get Claire moving.
I'm already on it. The listing portal shows it went up at 6 a.m. We can still freeze the sale before the first open house.
How fast can we file? Can you stop it today?
I'll file the motion within the hour. If the judge signs the temporary restraining order, the listing halts immediately. But we still need that notary to make it airtight.
Joshua's knuckles whitened on the windowsill. Outside, the sign mocked him. Inside, the quiet hum of Claire's laptop was the only answer.
Every minute that passed felt like another inch of his home being sold out from under him.
Claire, I'll make coffee. You two are going to need it.
The morning light grew colder. Across the street, the sign stood still. But inside Catherine's house, the first formal document of the fight was already taking shape. Claire's fingers paused over the keyboard. She leaned closer to the screen, then let out a quiet exhale.
Elizabeth Marsh. I found her. She's in a retirement community on the east side. Still sharp, still independent.
Can we reach her? Will she talk to us?
Claire dialed the direct line for her apartment. It rang twice, then a small, clear voice answered. Claire introduced herself, explained the situation. For 10 minutes she listened and took notes. When she hung up, her eyes met Joshua's.
She remembers the refinance. She never saw you sign, Joshua. She said, they brought her a paper with your signature already on it. She's willing to swear to it.
A witness. After years of silence, someone was finally going to say what he couldn't.
Claire already had the draft open on her laptop. She read the key line aloud. At no time did Joshua Reeves appear before me or acknowledge his signature on the refinance document bearing my seal. She attached the affidavit to the emergency motion. The evidence was now irrefutable. All that remained was the judge's signature. Claire grabbed the printed motion and the affidavit. Within minutes, she was in her car, the courthouse address glowing on her phone. She filed the documents at the clerk's office at 8:15. The clerk flagged it for emergency review. Judge Morrison read the forgery and the notary's sworn statement in the margin. He wrote one word, "Granted." He signed the temporary restraining order. The sale of 284 Evergreen Lane was frozen effective immediately. Claire received the signed order and stepped back into the cold. She called Catherine.
We have the order, but it's not over. I have to serve it before the realtor schedules anything. I'm heading there now.
The order was only as good as its delivery. If Pamela or Gary caught wind of it, they could try to finalize the sale before she arrived. She checked the time. 9:23 a.m. The realtor's office opened at 10. She had 37 minutes. She drove. The streets were slick with old snow, but she pushed the speed limit. The order on the passenger seat felt heavier than the paper it was printed on. The realtor's office came into view. The lights were on. Claire grabbed the order and ran for the door. Claire pushed through the glass door. Inside, Pamela and Gary sat across from a realtor, a stack of papers between them.
Ms. Reeves? Mr. Phillips? This is a temporary restraining order. The sale of 284 Evergreen Lane is frozen.
What? How dare you? This is a legal sale. You can't just walk in here and...
It's been granted by Judge Morrison. The refinance is under investigation for forgery. You can read the details.
This is ridiculous. We'll have our lawyer rip this apart. You're making a mistake, Claire.
The notary who supposedly witnessed Joshua's signature has sworn she never saw him. The original deed is intact. The mistake was yours?
Pamela's face drained of color. Gary's knuckles whitened on the back of his chair. The realtor slowly closed the folder in front of her. Claire placed the order on the table, its official seal facing up. This is served. The house is off the market until the court resolves the forgery claim.
Joshua put you up to this. He'll regret it.
Claire said nothing. She walked out, the bell on the door chiming behind her. Outside, she dialed Joshua. The fight had only just begun. 2 weeks later, Judge Morrison's courtroom was cold and still. Joshua sat at the plaintiff's table, Catherine 2 rows behind him, her hands folded on a worn cane. Pamela's lawyer, a tall woman with a sharp voice, approached the witness stand where Joshua sat, his hands resting on his knees.
Mr. Reeves, isn't it true that you voluntarily left the marital home that night, abandoning your wife and your responsibilities?
She handed me a suitcase and told me to leave. The house was locked behind me. I didn't abandon anything. I was thrown out.
The lawyer circled closer.
But you signed the refinance agreement, didn't you? You trusted your wife, and now you're claiming fraud. Isn't this just regret over a bad decision?
Regret. The word made him sick. He had trusted, and they had used that trust like a weapon.
He didn't just sign. They forged his name. The notary confirmed it.
The judge tapped his pen. Mrs. Harlow, please. But the point had been made. The court now knew the forgery wasn't just a suspicion, it was sworn testimony. When Joshua finally stepped down, his legs were unsteady. The trial would continue tomorrow, but tonight he would carry every question the lawyer had planted. The noon recess emptied the courtroom. Joshua sat alone on a polished wooden bench in the hallway, his head bowed. Footsteps approached, soft, deliberate.
Joshua, we need to talk.
There's nothing left to say.
I'm offering you the retirement accounts and half the pension. Drop the forgery claim. Walk away now, and it's yours. No more court.
Half the pension. A clean exit. No more depositions. No more of her voice in his ears. The quiet was tempting.
Remember the good years, Joshua. Don't let pride destroy everything.
The good years. He could still picture her laughing in the garden before Gary, before the lies. That woman was gone. The good years ended when you let Gary into our bed and forged my name. This isn't pride, it's truth. I'll see it through.
Pamela's expression flickered, first hurt, then something colder. She straightened her blazer and stepped back. Joshua watched her retreat down the marble corridor. The settlement was dead. Now there was only the trial, and whatever truth the judge would finally see. The next morning, the courtroom was full. The notary, Elizabeth Marsh, walked slowly to the stand, leaning on a cane. She identified the refinance document and stated clearly, she never witnessed Joshua Reeves sign it. The signature was already there. Pamela's lawyer tried to challenge her memory, but Elizabeth Marsh was unshakable. Her voice never wavered.
She's telling the truth. Anyone can see it.
He had known Elizabeth for 30 years. Seeing her there, unwavering, felt like the first real justice.
The judge examined the original deed, the forgery, and Elizabeth's affidavit. For a long moment, the room was completely silent. He removed his glasses, rubbed his eyes, and announced that the evidence was sufficient to proceed. The forgery claim was valid. But the judge reserved his final ruling on the property. He would issue a written decision within the week.
We've done everything we can. Now we wait.
Joshua exhaled slowly. The trial had laid everything bare. Now only the judge's pen would decide which name belonged on the deed. 5 days later, the courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison read his decision aloud. The refinance is void. The property known as 284 Evergreen Lane belongs to Joshua Reeves alone. No financial settlement is awarded to the defendant. He brought the gavel down. The sound echoed for a long moment.
Home. The word finally meant something again.
You did it, Joshua. It's over.
We did it. I wouldn't be here without you.
Pamela and Gary sat frozen on the opposite side of the courtroom. Their lawyer was already packing her briefcase.
He had won, but the victory felt less like celebration and more like a deep, slow exhale.
Now let's go home.
Outside, the snow had finally melted. For the first time in weeks, Joshua walked toward his own front door. But that step would come tomorrow. Tonight, he needed to sit with Catherine and just breathe. The next morning, Claire arrived at Catherine's with a small envelope. She handed it to Joshua without a word.
These are yours. The court ordered the locks changed. The house is officially Joshua Reeves, free and clear.
He opened the envelope. 2 new silver keys glinted in the morning light. No weight had ever felt heavier.
He put on his coat and stepped outside. The street was quiet, the remnants of snow melting into the grass. He crossed the lawn. The realtor's sign had been removed. Only a small hole in the earth remained.
He'd built the porch steps himself 30 years ago. Now they creaked under his weight like an old friend.
At the front door, he paused. The same wood grain he'd stared at on Thanksgiving night.
That night, the cold, the suitcase. It all felt like a story that belonged to someone else. Time to go home.
The key turned smoothly. The door swung open. Joshua stepped inside, and the latch clicked softly behind him. The house smelled faintly of her perfume and cardboard. A hollow quiet filled the rooms he'd built. From upstairs came the sound of drawers opening and closing, deliberate and mechanical.
She's still here, filing down the last hours of a life she'd already burned.
He climbed the stairs, his work boots heavy on the wood. The master bedroom door was open. Pamela was folding clothes into a suitcase on the bed, her back rigid. She didn't turn around.
The court gave me the house, Pamela. Right now you're trespassing.
I'm just getting my things. You can't deny me that.
Take them and go. Don't come back. Not ever.
She zipped the suitcase and brushed past him without another word. Her footsteps faded down the stairs and through the front door. Joshua stood in the silent bedroom, the suitcase's echo still hanging in the air. The house was finally his. Joshua sat in the living room, watching the last light fade from the windows. The house was his, but victory tasted like salt.
He should be grateful. Instead, he felt hollow, as if the fight had taken more than it returned.
He crossed the street, the box under his arm. By the time he reached her porch, she was already opening the door.
Joshua, come in. I just made coffee.
I can't repay you, but I wanted you to have this. It was my mother's brooch.
I don't want payment, Joshua. The only price I ask is that you come over for coffee on Thursdays.
Coffee on Thursdays. A simple thing that meant everything. Thursday coffee. You have my word.
Catherine smiled, the sort of smile that had seen decades of loss and still opened its door. He would see her Thursday, and every Thursday after. The coffee was already brewing. The next morning, Joshua replaced the front door lock. The old key went into a drawer. The new one felt like a deliberate choice.
Each turn of the screwdriver was a small reclaiming. The house was starting to feel like his again.
He tightened the creaking hinges on the back door, then moved to the attic to sort through old boxes. In the attic, he found a cardboard box labeled Family Photos. Dust swirled in the light as he opened it. He spread the photographs across the floor. Some made him wince, others he couldn't help smiling at.
He placed the ones with Pamela in a separate pile, not to burn them, but to store them away from sight. But the photo of himself at 27, hammer in hand, the house half built behind him, that one he kept.
By the time the afternoon lights slanted through the windows, the house smelled of wood polish and something like peace. He opened the front door and stood on the porch. Across the street, Catherine's kitchen window glowed warm. Tomorrow was Thursday. He would cross that street with clean hands and a clear conscience. Thursday morning broke clear. Joshua walked across the street with nothing in his hands but the promise he had made.
I made the coffee strong today. Thought you might need it after all that work on the house.
Strong is good. I've had enough weak things in my life lately.
Well, you're in the right place. No weak coffee here.
They talked about the weather, about the new lock on his front door, about how the neighborhood was quieter now. Ordinary things that felt extraordinary.
He hadn't laughed this easily in years, not since before the lies started.
Catherine watched him over her mug, her eyes crinkling. She didn't need thanks. This was enough.
Same time next week?
Same time next week, and every week after.
He took a sip of coffee. It was strong, and it was exactly what he needed. 3 Thursdays had come and gone, and the rhythm had settled into something as natural as breathing.
You're early.
Old habits. I used to rush home. Now I just walk.
Outside the kitchen window, the street held its afternoon quiet. His house stood solid across the lawn, the new lock glinting where the sun caught it. Catherine poured the coffee without asking, the stream a steady arc into the waiting cup.
He didn't need to tell her how he took it anymore. She already knew, the way a neighbor of 30 years always knows.
Same time next Thursday?
You know the answer.
As the afternoon faded into a dusk that softened the edges of everything, the two houses glowed across from each other. One held coffee and conversation, the other held silence and newly mended peace. And for Joshua Reeves, that was finally enough.